fellow data geeks, and welcome back to the Introduction to Excel tutorials. In this video, I want to build on the last video where we covered the if statement, and this time I want to cover both the COUNTIF and the SUMIF formulas, and how we can use those to handle kind of tables or columns of information where we've got lots of rows, and also to again start to work on building us up to getting our final kind of budget report that we've been working on over the last few tutorials. So what I want to start with is just a quick kind of recap. So I want to cover the count formula. So count and open bracket. And what I'm going to do is just select all of the cells in column E that have got a value populated in them. So E1 to E20, and I'm going to hit enter. So as you can see, we have 20. Let's take the decimal places off of here. Just use the shortcut here up on my toolbar to decrease my decimal place. If you want to add those back in, you just hit the other direction, but we're going to take those out for now. So we've got 20 values in this column here that are populated. So that's our count. Now, what the COUNTIF does is it allows us to reference the data range that we're talking about, whether that's you know, a bigger table or just a column like we've got here. But we combine that with our if formula. Now, if you remember the if formula, I'm just going to bring up the syntax here. So our if formula lets us specify a logical test, and then it will either populate with the value if that's true or if that's false. So what COUNTIF does is it allows us to combine counting the values we've got, but if they meet a specific criteria. So what I'm going to do is start off with, back up in our formula bar as usual, so equals count, and it's as simple as adding if on the end, so COUNTIF and open bracket. So again, we know that this is the range here in column E that we want to reference. So I've just selected our range, comma, and now Excel is asking us for the criteria. So what is it that we want to count? We want to count if any of these cells equals to 25, for example. So we're going to close that bracket to complete our formula and hit return. Now, as you can see, it's saying here that we have got 5. So in our column E, that means we should have 5 cells that have got 25 populated. So let's just go through and make sure that our formula is right. So I'm just going to highlight them up here with this yellow fill color. So we've got one there, here, we've got another one there, one here, and one at the bottom. So that is 5. So what the COUNTIF allows us to do is to take a list of values and say we want to know how many of those equals 25. And again, we can change that to be 100, which is also 5. We can change that to any value that we want. So actually, if we say we want to know how many are equal to 200, so if you just have a quick look down here, you can see that none of those match 200. So the result we should get is 0. And that's exactly what we get over here. So that's how COUNTIF works. And again, I'm just going to show you with the other example here. So obviously we've got our cell references. So our range, and we've just specified a value. What we could do is say we want to do a count of any that equal our first cell in the list, so of 150. So we can type in a value, we can reference a cell, and again that will give us 5. The other thing we can do is to specify a text as well. So I'm going to start again with our COUNTIF, open bracket. This time I'm going to select our range in column H. And what I want to do is say how many of these cells over here match the word purple. So again, any text, any words that you kind of use, they need to have that double quote around them. Close our bracket off and hit return. So we've got 5 purple. And again, we can see if we change that to red, we've got 6. So we've got here 1 and 3 there, so it's 4, 5, and 6. So within our COUNTIFs, we can, like with most of our formulas we've covered already, we can specify another cell, we can work out a formula, we can reference text or values that we've manually typed in. So that's how our COUNTIF works. Now, as you can probably guess, the SUMIF formula works in a very similar way. Obviously, with our reference here where we've got text populated, obviously we're not going to be able to do a sum of those fields, but we can use our column E here to give us the example. So equals SUMIF, open bracket. So this is the range that I want to use again. Now, as you can see, we've got an additional, Excel is giving us an additional set of information that we need to populate. So what I am going to do here is, so the SUMIF, we've specified our range. Our criteria will be, we'll go back to our original example of 25. So we're saying if any of these cells is equal to 25, then what's the range that we want it to sum? So we actually want it to sum up these cells here, but it will only sum those where we've got 25 populated. So if we close off our bracket and hit return, that's 125. So if you remember, we've highlighted here our 25s. As you can see, we've got 5 of them. So that is absolutely right. 5 times 25 is 125. So again, we can change this to any value we want. So 150, for example. So we've got the range, we've got the criteria, and then we've got our sum data range as well. So we're saying if any of these cells is equal to 150, then add that together, give us that sum of those cells. So where I think the SUMIF probably will make more sense is if we're not just trying to use this single column of data over here. So what I'm going to do is jump back to our data table. Is jump back here to our original data table that we've been working on. So as you can see, we've got all of our categories here. We've got our monthly, quarterly, and yearly costs. And what I've started to build up here is a group by category. So in here, what we've got is basically, I'm going to take these out, and we can then repopulate them using our new formulas we've learned. So one of the things we can do is to say, if we want this summary table, how many of our categories are equal to home? So we can start to kind of do the count in here, or we can sum up the values as well. And again, we'll be using our if statement. So first of all, over here, I'm going to use the COUNTIF example. So COUNTIF if I spell it correctly, then it will give us our hints as well. So we want to know the range. So we want to say if this field all the way down, so if our values in column I here equal to, and we're going to select P4. So in P4, we have got our category of home. So we want to say count if any of these cells equals home, then count that in our total. So we've got 3. And again, if we just go back over here, we've got 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So that gives us our count per category. So what I want to do is now to copy this formula down so that we get a count, so we know how many rows we have for each of our categories. And what I'm going to do before I pull that formula down is to just anchor these cells. So we always want to use this same range of I4 to I22. So I'm going to do function and F4 to put those dollar signs around our column and our row reference to fix this this range here highlighted in blue. We don't want that to move when we copy the formula down, and we want that to stay as P4. So if we again pull our formula down, which we've done in a few different videos now, as you can see, utility here has kept this fixed range, but we are now referencing P5, which says utility underneath. And we can see there we've got five records or 5 rows where that utility value is populated. So that will give us our count per category. Okay. And again, it just shows you kind of in a better example or in a real kind of example how we can use that count if. So we take our cell range to start with that we want to do our count within, and we then select our criteria. So here we've selected a cell reference that already exists. As you know from the previous examples, we can type in a value, we can type in text, we can put in a formula, you know, all those different kind of things. So that's how our count if works. So what we're going to do next is we are going to complete our category table here by populating the sum of the monthly cost for all of our rows here that fit within that home category category column. So start off, we want equals sum if open bracket. So we want to select our range first of all. So this is the range where we want to do our kind of if lookup, so our logical test. So again, we want to select everything in the column I within our table. And we want to say if any of these values match to cell P4, a comma to move us on to our next hint. So equals and to our sum range. So what we want to do is it's column K that we want to actually sum these numbers up. So I'm gonna close my formula off with my close bracket and then hit return. So we're saying £915. So as you can see, we've already highlighted our 3 rows that have home populated. So we've got 800, we've got 20, and we've got 95, which if you do that maths very quickly in your head equals 915. So again, what we can do is then we can pull the formula down to populate for the remaining categories within the table. But let's just put that example in again, just to recap. So equals sum if. So we want our range first of all, and the first range we specify is the one that we want to look up to. So we want to match our criteria. So we'll select column I. So if any of the cells in this range match the criteria of utility, comma, and then it's our monthly column that we want to sum. So again, close off your formula with your closed bracket and hit return. And utility will total £110. So what we can do obviously is pull our formula down. What we need to think about first is we want to fix these references. So we want our range to be fixed, and we also want our sum range to be fixed. But our criteria, we want Excel to move that reference down with us as we copy the formula down to the bottom of the table. So I'm just going to put in those dollar signs into our range so that we fix both our columns and our rows. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing on our sum range as well. Okay, so then what we can do is hover over the bottom right for our black plus symbol. We're then going to just drag that down to the bottom. And as you can see, we've got all of our values populated here. So if we just double click into this one, for example, we can see that Excel has kept our fixed ranges that we've specified, and it's moved our criteria. So our P10 has moved down with us as we've dragged that formula. So that's the sum if. So it's really helpful, especially if you've got a big data table with lots of different values in, and you want to view this kind of summary, that you can use the sum if or the count if to give you those results based on a criteria that you specify. So obviously in here we've used our cell reference because we know that we're looking for this category. As I said in the previous example, if I just delete that reference out, you can type in text as long as it's in double quotes. You can do kind of a mixture. I think using those cell references means that it's a lot quicker when you want to copy the formulas or drag them down into the cells below. So I'll just delete that out and put back in our cell reference of P4. So it means that you're able to, without having to type the formula with manually entered kind of values within there, you don't have to go in and update those for every single one. Also, it means if for any reason you decide to change these criteria, so if we change this one to depth, for example, it will automatically update our formula here, and we change this one to home. So we've just switched them around very easily because we are only using cell references within our formulas. So that's another benefit of using those references rather than manually typing in values into them. But those options are there, and depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve, you may decide that that referencing cells or typing in the values you want to match to both have their benefits depending on the situation that you're working with. So that covers off our count if and our sum if. Again, as with previous videos, I'll put the syntax of these up on the screen so you can make note of them and just refresh your memory. As I said, when you first type in to the formula bar up here, Excel is very good at giving you some hints and what it's the information it's looking for, and how to kind of split that up in between your formulas, where your commas should be, etc. But I will put that on the screen so that you can see. And yeah, I will come back to you with another video very shortly on multiple if criteria. And what you can then start to do is combine, your ifs, your sum ifs, having multiple if statements all in one formula, and I'll come back with that video that covers multiple if statements very shortly. So thanks for watching today. If you liked today's video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can follow the full series of tutorials that I'm covering with Excel, and obviously hit that notification bell so that you get alerted when a new video is uploaded to the series. So I just want to say thanks again for your time today, and if you've got any questions, any formulas that you're working with that you want some advice, or you've got specific things you're trying to achieve and you don't know what formulas to use, add all those to the comments. I will get back to you. And if there's any particular formulas or functions or anything to do with Excel that you want me to cover in a future video, give me a shout out in the comments below, and I will try and pick that up and plan in a video to cover any topics that you might need some help with. So thanks again, and I will see you on the next one.